They actually goddamn did it. We called it, we said it would happen, and they did it. Welcome back to Movies TV Mad. You can follow me on X at Movies TV Mad, on Instagram Movies TV Mad X, on YouTube Movies TV Mad, 3 separate words, and on TikTok Mick isn't perfect, because guess what? This guy admits he isn't perfect on the inside or the outside, and if we all did that, we would live in a less polarizing society. And one more thing I want to say before we get started today. Your individual opinion is your opinion. It's your truth, but it isn't the universal truth. Once we make our truths a universal truth, the world truly becomes as polarizing as it's becoming today. Anyway, yes, ncuti Gatwa replaces Matt Smith as the Doctor in that cameo in the biopic of how Doctor Who got started in '63, an adventure in space and time, written by the brilliant, also ever-present Mark Gatiss. It's an amazing little biopic. I absolutely love it, and I loved seeing ncuti Gatwa in it. And this should be a rite of passage. It's a rite of passage for the brand new 15th Doctor ncuti Gatwa. And it should be a rite of passage for any new Doctor going forward. If you're a new Doctor, you should get that scene. The previous Doctor should be scrubbed out, and the new one should be in there. I think that's fun. I think that's brilliant. But of course, as usual, a hardcore section of the fan base are very upset that ncuti has replaced Matt Smith. And if you're one of those people who is upset, you need to sit by your mirror and take a long, hard look at yourselves and ask why you're upset about this. Some fools and idiots saying it is woke. It is not woke. He is the current Doctor. That's why they did it. It's exciting. And as I say, I absolutely loved how he winks at David Bradley. I think it was awesome. Now, I'm going to be honest with you, I'm recording this on a Friday, you're seeing it on a Saturday. So today is the day we see a brand new episode of Doctor Who. The first of 3 episodes. 3 episodes that celebrate the 60 years of this mammoth concept, this mammoth character. And it's brilliant, and it's exciting, and I can't wait to see the episode later on today, which of course I will do a full review for. But yes, for me personally, it was great seeing ncuti in an adventure in space and time. It's a positive thing, but of course there are sections of this fan base that have to bring kind of, I suppose, the palette down, have to bring the tone down with their bigotry. And it can only be bigotry that you're upset about this. We know there's some people that are not happy that we've got the first male black Doctor, right? Ncuti Gatwa is one of the great young actors out there. He got this role through his acting ability. Now maybe they looked at each other and said, we want a black male Doctor this time. That's okay. As long as you, when you're casting this, you cast for the right reasons and you cast the right people. Ncuti Gatwa is the right person. But his little cameo kind of shows already what kind of vibrant Doctor he's going to be. The wink tells you everything. He's going to be a bit of a cheeky, go-getting Doctor. Even that clip we've seen of him when he says, what the hell is going on here? He's opinionated. You know, there's a big personality. Russell's Doctors always have had a big personality. Generally, the Doctors have had a big personality. Jodie Whittaker's Doctor didn't really have that personality because Chibnall wrapped her up in cotton wool because he wanted to kind of represent a female Doctor in a certain way. My issue wasn't that we had a female Doctor. My issue was how he projected her. That was the problem. He didn't give her anything. Apart from the Timeless Children that kind of gave her a little bit of emotion, a little bit of personality, he did nothing else with her character. He did nothing else with his minority companions. It's, for me, if you're going to represent people, at least do your due diligence and give them what you've given the white people in the past. That's the problem. Fake allies, fake inclusion, fake representation. Should we even be calling a black actor playing the Doctor representation? After all, a black man is a human being. He's the same as you, He's the same as me, right? Why is it representation and inclusion, right? They have every right, as long as they have like basically, everyone should be hired on the same premise. Writers, directors, producers, executives, because they're talented. But you want to be diverse, but is it diverse? Do you want to, is that what we should be calling it? Well, basically, you're employing another human being. Why is that diversity? Because in the past, the entertainment industry has avoided, employing marginalized groups. And the problem is the way the entertainment industry sell casting people like Ncuti and Jodie really gaslights them at the end of the day. Now, RTD has avoided this type of gaslighting. Ncuti Gatwa is the Doctor because he's an utterly talented guy. And as I say, if you're upset about this, then you really need to go check yourselves. As I say, I do have an issue with the way the entertainment industry kind of markets diversity, like they deserve a medal for doing it in the first place. That's the biggest insult you can do to marginalised groups. But in terms of doing it and giving everyone the wider opportunities that every human being deserves, that's not woke. There's nothing wrong with it. And if you think there's something wrong with it, there's something wrong with you, as far as I'm concerned. I do want to talk about Yasmin Finney. We did see a little TV spot of her and me, and I was utterly impressed. So we're going to get into that as well. But yeah, I loved that little sequence in An Adventure in Space and Time with Ncuti. I thought it was great. It was different to what Matt did, which was good because basically Matt projects his Doctor's personality into that moment, and Ncuti clearly projects his Doctor's personality in that moment, even though we don't know that personality. But it looks like he's going to be a very, very cheeky, matey Doctor. And I'm very, very excited to see what he does. I've said before, I expect to see him a lot more in these free specials than people think. I spoke about my theory of a twin regeneration, him arriving at the same time as Tennant, but somewhere else. We will see him. It wouldn't surprise me if we do see him. Is it called the Star Beast, today's episode? I think so. Anyway, I think we'll see him in all 3 episodes. We'll probably see him in a cliffhanger ending. Those of you who actually went to the press event, you'll know. Or did they cut that bit out? Did they cut the cliffhanger out so you didn't see it? Very, very interesting. If you can inbox me, you can DM me and let me know. By the time you get round to doing that, I probably would have seen the episode anyway. So don't worry about it. It doesn't matter. But I'm very, very hyped and excited to see this first of 3 specials today. Look, I love Doctor Who. I think Doctor Who's amazing. And when there's something to complain about, I will constructively complain about it. I love RTD. I look up to RTD. RTD is my creative hero. But I'm quite willing for anyone I follow on social media or anyone I look up to in the industry to constructively criticise them. Doesn't mean all of a sudden I'm going to hate them forever and unfollow them and not support their projects just because, I sometimes disagree with them. There's a room in this society for disagreement as long as we do it constructively. I'll tell you, I went into RTD's Instagram and spoke to him about the whole Davros thing. And I was very constructive, and it was a long passage, and he liked it. He pressed like, and I appreciated that. And if you want to know what I said, I'm happy for Davros to be looked at a different angle. I think all characters should be looked at different angles. It changes things up. Whether or not, this is what I said, whether or not it's a bad stereotype for Davros to be in a wheelchair is something I'll discuss down the pub tonight out in Ayia Napa. And that's what I said, and he liked it. Now, I could have gone into it deeper and said, I don't think it's a bad stereotype. But, there's no point. Look, and there's these videos that are being released now of RTD back in 2008 saying he would never change anything about Davros. But I did that whole video where I said that Russell T Davies isn't woke, but he'd sure like Disney to think he is. This is the thing now. Disney have a say. If you've seen that documentary, the 7-year hitch, about how this guy, Philip Seagal, was trying to put together that brilliant Doctor Who movie, and it wasn't for him, it wouldn't have been put together at all. Brilliant bloke, but he had all these different people he had to listen to. He was taking notes from Fox, Universal, Amblin, the BBC. It was ridiculous, and he decided who to listen to and who to ignore. But this is the thing now. He's got to take notes from Disney and the BBC. I think Russell can basically do what he wants. But we know that Disney are a very progressive company, and they would have got in his ear about, good representation of the disabled. But there's also the Ruth Madeley effect, who he's brought in to recur as that unit, I think, science officer. Ruth is very vocal about how the disabled community are represented. She's spoken about the lack of representation in the industry for disabled people, which is true. So she would have ventured an opinion with Russell as well, maybe saying, I'm not going to be involved, Russell, if we continue to stereotype disabled people in this way. And there is a side of that, because you've got to put yourself in those people's shoes. And I know a lot of people are going on to X and saying, well, I'm disabled and I think it's disgusting that RTD is doing this. Of course, there's no clarification whether they're actually disabled or they're just saying they're disabled. I can't look. I don't have the right to universally say, oh, this doesn't badly stereotype the disabled. Even though I think that, right? I ain't personally disabled. But both my parents were. I cared for my parents until the day they both died. So I saw them struggle. And, I've said before, there's as many bad disabled people as there is good disabled people. But here's the thing. You're watching something on the screen. Millions of people are watching it. And when they're watching it, in their mind, they're seeing an evil character being disabled. So I get it. Does it mean that no disabled character should ever be a villain? No, that would be ridiculous. But because the entertainment industry haven't done their due diligence with the disabled, they're on uneasy ground as well. So it's a very complicated debate, actually. It's not a black and white debate, but it's something I'd rather allow the disabled community to talk about rather than us. Like, a lot of us are really pissed off about this because we love Doctor Who. We're obsessed with Doctor Who. Davros has been great in that chair. It's part of his iconography. And I get why so many of you are upset. But at the end of the day, for me, and this is just for me, I'm happy for the character to be looked at from a different angle. I'm totally fine with it. I don't think it was a good idea for Russell to be so vocal about why he took him out the chair, but he did it. I just think, during a build-up of an anniversary, I think it should be kind of positive and a unification of the fans and the production team rather than the constant polarization between the two. So, yeah, I don't agree that it's a bad stereotype, but I do understand why they're doing it. And Russell himself had Max, as I said yesterday, had Max from the Titanic episode in a chair. Same with the guy, from the alternate world who created the Cybermen as well. And obviously, clearly, he probably regrets that too. So we live in different times at the end of the day. We're never going back to the way things used to be. And there's a lot of older people, my age and older, who can't kind of accept the world they live in. And they want to go back to the way things were. When I was a young man, my dad was the same. He wished he was back in the 60s. Things were much better in my day. Everybody thinks that. But there's an evolution of humanity. The reason we're trying to represent more people, be a bit more cautious about people's mental health is because we come from a more caring, knowing, emotionally intelligent generation, and we care how everybody feels generally. Now there's people who will call that woke and problematic. I'm not one of them. My only concern about things is that we can't keep on cancelling people with opposing opinions to us, and we can't keep on trying to gag people, right? It's okay to disagree with each other, but we live in a more, I suppose, a more forthright society, a more caring society. We've seen what's happened with the Scream movie now, with, one Latin female actor being removed because of her views, and then another Latin female actor leaving in support of her. That generation don't take no shit. This generation doesn't take that kind of shit. And when something seems unfair, they react to it. And I respect them for that, because my generation just had its head in the sand, and generations before that, and we didn't give a shit about other people. But now seeing this generation in the way they are, I think we do need to become a more compassionate kind of race of people. I'm talking about the human race. Things are very different now. The trans community are in the mainstream. They weren't in the mainstream 20, 30 years ago. that creates a new polarizing discussion. It shouldn't be that polarizing. There are issues that need to be discussed going forward. But just because you don't like something, it doesn't mean it shouldn't exist. It doesn't mean it shouldn't be on your TV and cinema screens. But we've always got to employ people in art, in entertainment, who are qualified to do the job, no matter what group of, what community they're from. It's nothing to do with that. Best people, always. So yeah, there's no one who should be justifiably angry with Ncuti replacing Matt in an adventure in space and time. I thought it was a great scene. As I say, I loved the wink, and it was utterly, utterly exciting. And going forward, you can see what kind of Doctor Ncuti is going to be, and I'm very, very excited about that. But something else that got me excited, which may upset some people, was seeing, trans actress Yasmin Finney in a little TV spot of the episode we're going to see later on, 6:30 on BBC One. Thereafter, it will be on the iPlayer, and outside of the UK on Disney+. There's no excuses to miss this. But it was a brilliant scene. The music was tender. The sensibilities in RTD's writing was brilliant. And she's talking, is it to Meep the Beep? You see, I don't know this character. I've never read the Doctor Who comic or wherever this character's from, but they're talking. And she's talking about feeling like an outsider, feeling hated, feeling like an alien, and, being a trans person. And I thought it was dealt with really well. Of course, those hardcore fans are very upset by this scene. Again, calling it woke, calling it this, calling it that. I wasn't triggered by this at all. I was actually feeling really emotional for her as a character and for her from that community. And it just made me feel compassionate, emotional, and it made me try when putting myself in her shoes. And maybe that's just me, and that's the mindset that I come from. But I didn't see anything bad about this scene. But of course, the people who are triggered don't want to see a trans actor played by a trans actress on Doctor Who or anything else. This is what RTD's already said. Those people need to sit in a room on their own and think about their lives. And it's right. If you hate something, don't embrace it. Personally, I think if you hate something, you should get yourself educated and then try and embrace it as much as possible. But if you hate with all your heart so deeply a community of people, then don't watch Doctor Who. And you don't have to keep on telling us how much you hate that community by spinning a narrative. But it's one thing's for clear, that Yasmin Finney is a bloody good actor, and she really does her part in this scene. You do feel empathy for her, and you do actually start to like her as a person. And I'm now very, very excited and interested to see her going forward as a character, because RTD has already told us that he's going to be using her quite a lot going forward in Doctor Who, because he loves working with her. But one thing's for sure, she's a very, very talented actor. I liked what we got of her in this scene. It made me very excited and very hyped. And I'm very hyped for these 3 episodes. Spoken before, I think that Ncuti and David Tennant may share a scene together, because, as I said yesterday, I think this will be a twin regeneration. Now, it'll be interesting when we get the first sequence. Will we see the whole Jodie regenerating into David? Maybe we'll see Ncuti turn up somewhere else. As I say, I expect to see Ncuti, and I could be wrong, in all 3 of these specials, or he may play an extended role in the 3rd special. One of the 2, for sure. But this is the way Russell's going at it. He wanted David, he wanted Catherine, he wanted the Toymaker. Is that his name, Toymaker? There's a villain in DC. Is it Toy? Anyway, basically it's Toy something. So we're going to have a great villain that we don't see till the 3rd episode, apparently. And it's all building up. And all 3 of these episodes will have cliffhangers as well. So it's all very, very exciting. And Russell T Davies confirms that he's already delivered an episode that won't be broadcast to 2025. But this is what I like about RTD. He's very organised. Very organised. He wants the public to know that he's organised, that he has a plan, And Russell T Davies is one of these creatives that's always got a plan. This is why he's the best person to run Doctor Who. Whether you like his idea of the Davros thing or not, you must admit, when he was running Doctor Who before, it was all run in an orderly conduct. It was all, we had our 13 episodes a year, 14 actually, with the Christmas special. Now we're going to have about 6 to 8 episodes a year. I think 9 altogether. We're going to get our Christmas specials. They'll probably call them holiday specials, not to offend anyone, but we still get a December the 25th episode, plus, I think, as I say, 6 to 8 episodes a season. I think it's 8 episodes, which for me is more than enough, because by shortening it down a bit, because it was 10 episodes before, and look, there isn't the budgets there used to be. The BBC just about could put out 6 episodes a series for the Chibnall era. Was that 8 as well? No, Chibnall at first put, I think it was 10 episodes and 10 episodes in his first 2 series. Then he did the mini-series Flux, didn't he? But there's not the money there. That's why they needed Disney's investment. And that's why I said before, no Disney, no Doctor Who. And that's why Russell T Davies has to mind his P's and Q's a little bit. He has to bend the knee here and there. I'm assuming the pressure mostly for kind of taking Davros out of the chair was from Disney, and I think Ruth Madeley was involved in that as well, because I've said before, Ruth Madeley is a huge vocal, supporter of her own community, and she's spoken out before and said, as I've already said, that she's been unhappy by the lack of representation for the disabled in entertainment generally. So I'm sure she would have vocalized maybe some bad stereotypes, because she's not shy in coming forward. And as I say, that's a thing that I'm happy to kind of take a back seat on and say that's for the disabled community to talk about. But Russell T Davies is in charge of Doctor Who, and ultimately Davros coming out the chair isn't the end of the world for me, because if I want to see Davros in the chair, if I'm that desperate to see a villain in a wheelchair, I can watch older episodes of Doctor Who and see that happening. Now we're going to see a different version of Davros prior to him becoming disfigured and being in this life support system, and that's cool for me as well. And Russell T Davies is such an excellent writer. He will do something very interesting and special with it. So I'm very, very excited for today's episode and the other 2 episodes going forward. I personally think Russell T Davies is a genius, but I am going to disagree with some of the things he says and does on the show sometimes, and that's okay. But to be honest with you, apart from the Davros stereotype thing and the whole stance of him not allowing Tennant to wear Jodie's costume, I've been pretty much okay with what he's doing. Now, I have questioned the idea of bringing Donna back, because Donna had a brilliant ending, and I said the other day, just because someone has a tragic ending doesn't mean it's not a great ending. Donna had one of the best conclusions to any companion in Doctor Who history, and undoing that is utterly problematic to me. Will she end in a happy way, or will she die? This is interesting. We have seen Ncuti during an outside shoot at, looking at a gravestone. Is it Donna Noble's gravestone? Will he feel a responsibility, to look out for Yasmin Finney's character going forward, who's playing Donna's trans daughter? So, yeah, I think it's going to be interesting. Now, Russell has hinted it's not going to end well for Donna, but we will see what happens there. I think if you set something up that if you remember someone, her mind will burn and she will die, I think you have to go through with it, unless you've got some kind of excellent explanation for not doing that. But that's the problem with bringing her back. I understand that Kath wanted to come back. I love Catherine. I think she's a wonderful person. She's a wonderful artist. She's one of the great Doctor Who companions. I'm going to enjoy seeing her again. But also, on the other hand, I'm kind of thinking it was left in such a good place. I don't want anything to damage what's already been done. But Russell gets it. So he'll handle. He knows how to dig himself out of a hole, and he will. So in the comments, I just want you to tell me what you're looking forward to with these 3 episodes of Doctor Who. Tell me what you're worried about. Tell me what you're excited about. I want to see a balance of, I don't just want to see negativity or positivity. I want a different types of opinion just to let me know what you think going forward. But as I've said many times, we live in different times. We are not going back. We are looking at diverse entertainment. We're never going back to the old days where you're not going to see diversity, right? It's the way it's handled. But as I say, and I've said many a times, should it even be called diversity? Because everyone's human. Everyone has a right, as long as they've got the talent and ability to get a job in the industry, they should get that job no matter what marginalised group they're from. But as well, if you're white and you're talented, you should be able to have the opportunities of everybody else. Basically, everybody should be standing together in unification in this world instead of being divided. And if we take a step back when we get angry, we take a few deep breaths, it's always better. I used to really react on social media a lot more angrily and aggressively. And I don't so much because I think about my stances and my opinions before I make them. I think that's very, very important in life. That because I'm not someone who enjoys hurting people. I know that words wound. I know that my words in the past can be wounding as well. So I'm very, very careful. Now, in terms of being a content creator, that may not work to my advantage anymore, but I couldn't give a damn. It's not about that. I don't care if one person watches me or 5 people watches me. If you're an ally or a supporter to my platforms, I thank you deeply. Thank you. But you don't have to be. If you think I'm crap and boring and me rabbiting on for half an hour is half an hour too long and my video should only be 5 minutes, you can go. It's fine. I love the sound of my own voice, and that's why I do what I do. I don't expect to trend. I don't expect to have successful videos. I don't expect to have successful platforms. So when people say to me, oh, nobody watches your videos, nobody cares what you've got to say, I'm very much aware of that. But guess who does care? Mickey Boy. And Mickey, the God, is all that matters. What I think about is all that matters, because my individual opinion, which is not a universal opinion, matters to me. And this is why I do what I do. I love Doctor Who. I think it was brilliant that Russell brought it back in 2005. I'm a big fan of Doctor Who, the movie. I think it was a great achievement and showed everyone what Doctor Who with all the bells and whistles can do. And Paul McGann was an absolutely outstanding Doctor. And there are rumours of Paul having a spin-off series, which I would absolutely embrace. But it has come from the Mirror about a week or 2 ago, and they're a good source for Doctor Who. I think this would be brilliant. I think Paul is amazing. He was an amazing Doctor. He was done dirty, never to get a series. When I saw that movie, it was like I saw something on the big screen. It's like Doctor Who, epic and awesome. I even didn't mind Eric Roberts as the Master. I embraced it all, even the half-human thing. I didn't give a shit about. Again, the hardcore are really set in their ways. And that's the problem. Basically, and let me tell you about something about all these people who are really upset about the Davros thing, right? And they're saying they hate RTD and they're not going to watch Doctor Who anymore. These are the people who hated RTD from the very beginning. They hate RTD because he didn't keep Doctor Who to the way the classic series was. And guess who would have watched that? Not all the new kids that came in, who are adults now, who will be watching Doctor Who tonight. It would just be these older people who want Doctor Who never to change, because no one's going to be sitting there watching it in their droves if it's slowly paced like it was in the 60s, 70s and 80s. Everything needs to evolve. Everything needs to be modernised. And Russell T Davies came in, grabbed Doctor Who, didn't change it. He was still Doctor Who. He still travels with someone. He's still in a wooden TARDIS, you know, on the outside, and it's a beautiful time spaceship on the inside. It's the same show. It's just more contemporized. It's just a modern way of doing Doctor Who. You need to modernize, or you will be left behind. That's why RTD's era was so successful. That's why it won awards and everybody loved it, and kids and families sat there together, as well as a lot of reasonable fans of the older series. But there are people who are older, as I said before, that don't like change and resist change in any way, whether that's about representation, inclusion, the way the world is today. And Let me tell you about me personally. I'm 51 years old. I don't want to grow up into a bitter, hateful old man. I want to have love in my heart for everyone, no matter what part of the world they're from, what community they represent. And I don't want to sit here being a hater and hating this and hating that. I'm happy to criticize things constructively when I don't like them, but I will never be in a position I was 20 years ago when I was blaming everyone else for my life. But me, I don't want to be a hater. I want to be a lover. We will be talking about the brand new special of Doctor Who in a special video where we review this episode, and then we'll be reviewing all brand new episodes of Doctor Who going forward, and maybe some old ones as well. So keep it here on Movies TV Mad. If you love Doctor Who, you're in the right place.